Bon matin, good morning. On va ouvrir la réunion du 22 mai 2024. Monsieur Laviolette, la vision, s'il vous plaît.
Notre vision, Prescott-Russell continuera d'être une communauté unie par ses traditions et ses cultures en marche vers la prospérité de tous ses citoyens. Our vision, Prescott-Russell, will continue to be a community united by its traditions and cultures, working together towards prosperity of all its citizens.
Merci, Monsieur Laviolette. Reconnaissance territoriale. As we gather here today, we respectfully acknowledge the land on which we live and work in Prescott-Russell is located on the traditional and unceded territory of Anishinaabe people, including the Algonquin Nation. We, furthermore, acknowledge that the territory encompasses the traditional and treaty lands of Anishinaabe et Haudenosaunee people, including the Mohawk Nation. We gratefully acknowledge these First Nations for their guardianship of this land, and we honor them. We are grateful for the past, present, and future contributions made by the First Nations, Inuit, Métis people in shaping and strengthening our communities. On s'assoit? On peut s'asseoir? Membres du Conseil, M. Parisien, Head of Departments, les gens dans la salle, people who are in Town Hall this morning, les gens à la maison, ceux qui nous écoutent via YouTube, good morning. Welcome to our regular council meeting of May 22nd, 2024. Going to item number 3, adoption of the agenda. I need a mover and a seconder. Monsieur Lefebvre, seconded by Monsieur Zant. L'item numéro, just a rectification in regards to item number 10, bylaw. It will be 2024-21 to 2024-23. So 2024-24 will be removed from the resolution. Just to take notes. All those in favor? Those against? Proposeur, c'est à M. Lefebvre, appuyé de M. Zant. Going to item number 4, declaration of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Item numéro 5, number 5, petition, delegation and presentation. 5.1. Let's go to my English literature, sorry. Mr. Jason St. Pierre and Mr. Jim Pine, Eastern Ontario Regional Network, known also under EORN, update on the Cell Gap project. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of council. It's great to be here. I'm Jim Pine. Jason St. Pierre, we're going to split the presentation if that's okay. We're really pleased to be back to give you an update on the Cell project and tell you what kind of progress we're making across the region and certainly here in the United Counties. So we go to that next slide if that's okay. Just a reminder about what we're trying to do with the Cell project in terms of our goals for the whole of the work that we're doing. We want to make sure that there's ubiquitous coverage across Eastern Ontario, including the United Counties here, that anyone can make that important 911 phone call, for instance, or just use their phone for voice services. We also want to make sure that we put enough capacity into the new network that people can do things on their mobile devices, their cell phones, their tablets, and that would include doing email, web browsing, social media services we call that standard service, and this is where people work, travel, and live across the region. And the final goal is the at least 85% of this entire region being covered at high definition level of capacity so that people can do really high density, high capacity services or work with it, whether it's video conferencing. We want to be sure, for instance, that if you're in an ambulance and the ambulance needs to be in contact with the hospital along the route, that would be able to happen so that they'd be in constant contact. So it's about coverage and it's about capacity as well in terms of the network itself. So those are the three goals that we have to meet in our contract with Canada and Ontario, and certainly with the EOWC and the United Counties. Next slide. It's a big project. It's $300 million worth of work that we're doing together with Rogers Communications, who are our technology partner in the project. Canada and Ontario are supporting the project as well with about $71 million each. And of course, the Warden's Caucus are contributing about $10 million towards the project. And Rogers itself is putting in at least $150 million of their money to make this whole effort come to pass. The last line in the slide is important. About $15.4 million worth of infrastructure investment will happen here in the United Counties, and you'll see a slide in just a minute to see what that looks like. So there's a fair amount of investment coming to the United Counties to meet those goals of the project. This slide just is a reminder of how long it takes to put a new tower up. It can take up to 2 years to get through the process to get a single tower sited and constructed. First, Rogers has to go out and find a property that works in terms of covering the gaps in coverage. They have to negotiate a lease with the private landowner. These towers are on private lands. Then we have to go through a whole process of doing an archaeological assessment and a natural heritage assessment as part of our Indigenous duty to consult consultation process, and get through the land authority approval. That's usually done at the local community level, whether it's in Hawkesbury or in the nation. Those communities will have a say if there's a tower being proposed there. And then we've got to get the site preparation done and construction. So it can take a long time to get through the process, which is why this project is going until 2026 to be completed. And throughout the whole of that period of time, we are working with First Nations communities around the consultations, and that will continue right through from the start of the project to the end of the project. So it takes a fair bit of time to get to construction. The duty consult is a big piece of what we're doing. I'm the Indigenous lead on the consultation process for the project. The Crown designated 18 communities, First Nations, that we are working with on a regular basis, a couple of which we work with very closely throughout the project. We've been working hard to get a process in place that works, that will lead us to the meaningful consultation goal, which is what we need to do in terms of all of the work. As I said, we're doing archaeological assessments on all of the new tower builds. There are 257. We've got about 180 or so done now. And we've had lots and lots and lots of meetings and consultations with the communities, over 160, as you can see. And this will continue right through the whole of the project until we're done working, whether it's with the Algonquins, the Pikwakanagan, or Curve Lake First Nation and others. So just gives you an idea of the amount. This is a slide that represents the project in whole. There are more than 600 towers that are part of the project. 257 or so are new builds. There are 312 existing Rogers towers that are being upgraded with new 5G capable equipment. And you can see from this slide, this slide's a little bit out of date because progress has been made since we put it together. I think there are 309 uplifts completed. So just a few existing towers to be completed. We've got, I think, 52 or 56 new towers built and in service now, so up from the 41. And in terms of the co-locations, that's where Rogers is able to put gear on another owner's tower. It might be a Bell tower, it might be a third-party tower, to cover the gap. And that doesn't require us to build another tower. So we're doing about 75 of those, and we're at about 51. So good progress, but this is what it looks like. It's a big project. That's why it's costing about $300 million to make this all happen. I think the next slide is a look right at Prescott-Russell itself. You can see that there are 15 existing towers that have already been upgraded and are in service now, so we've completed those upgrades here in the United Counties. There are 12 that are being built new, 4 are in service now, and there are 4 colos, and one of those has been completed. So we're making good progress here in the counties, but there's still some more work to do on it. This is gives you specifically by the site in terms of the uplifts that have been completed. You can see where they are. And of course, you'll have this information so that you can look at later through the project if you want. Along with the co-locations, you can see the 4 that are there and the one that's in service now in Castleman, or in the nation, I should say. So those other ones will come into service this year and certainly by the end of the project in 2026. And the next slide is the new builds. And by the end of 2024, we should about half of the new builds done and in service. And you can see the schedule for the remainder, some next year and 4 or 5 in 2026. So that's the new builds. And in terms of timelines, this just gives you an idea of what we've been doing and where we're going to be by the end of 2026. And we expect to start having hopefully some good announcements about towers coming into service more frequently than we've been able to do so far. So with that, that's a quick update on the CEL project. We just want to say thank you again to you and your staff, Your Honor, for the help in making this project happen, for your financial commitments. And I hope you're comfortable with the progress that we are making today on closing the gaps and increasing the capacity for folks in this area and across the region. If there's any questions, happy to take them, and I'll turn it over to my colleague.
Thank you, Mr. Pine. Any questions from council? Out of the 300 million, how much has been spent already? If you have an idea, or
About half.
about half? Well, that's pretty good. You mentioned in the one of the slides that it takes between 12 and 24 months by the time it's all done. But if we look at the installation, we're looking at 2026. And I know in Champlain Township, they came in 2022 to ask the township to proceed. So we're looking at 5 to 6 years, the gap in regards to having a tower up, because they're planning to come in 2026 to install it in Champlain Township. So from 2022, it's a longer gap, but then again, there's obstacle, and I understand. What question? Thank you so much for the presentation. Mr. Saint-Pierre?
All right, thank you very much. So on top of the 600 towers we're working on and the $300 million project, the team thought we needed to throw a few more challenges into what we had capacity for. And under the URM brand, we are a very small team of 11 people, so it's been pretty busy. But with that, there's a few more initiatives that we've taken under our belt to help support. So about a year ago, we were requested through the EOWC to help support them in the 7 and 7 regional housing plan to create a business plan that would be reviewed by the EOWC for opportunities for future plans, for funding, and for strategic planning purposes. We were proud and happy to say that we did complete that in April of this year and presented it to the EOWC as well as the EOWC CAOs for review. And that is now with them to dig into and study a little bit further and come up with what the next steps might be in that plan. On top of that, we were working through the Permit Central, which was a right-of-way application permitting system, digital permitting system that was worked on with Transnomus. And Transnomus, you may know from the 511 system. They've done a lot of work in regional 511 and mapping throughout Eastern Ontario and throughout Ontario. We worked with them to create a digital permitting system for access to right-of-ways for better visibility to the municipalities, with the ability to recover some causal costs as well through the ISPs around the Accelerated High-Speed Program, the ASIP program. There was no cost, or is no cost to municipalities, and we've had a number of the partner municipalities join on to that to help support them through that process. At the same time, and actually with the help of Jeremy and the staff here in Prescott-Russell, we also took a really hard look at the municipal access agreements and some of the challenges that go into creating a municipal access agreement. They are a lengthy legal process for municipalities to engage in, and there's a number of challenges when working with the ISPs as far as the back and forth to be able to find a common ground that you're able to sign off on. It was with the understanding and some of the challenges we saw through Prescott-Russell, we took this on with a partner to look at the overall MAA process, the access agreement process, to see if we can create a template that would be more easier to manage, especially for the smaller municipalities that wouldn't have the resources, the skill set, or the knowledge on how to create the MAAs. So with the help of Prescott-Russell and Jeremy and his team here, as well as a couple of the other municipalities, we've been working with AMO to try to come up with a template that would be able to be used for that going forward. On top of that, and finally, we are in the midst of, or almost finished completing the EORN strategic plan for the next 1, 3, and 5 years. So we're looking to share that with the EOWC here in the next couple of months. Just looking for board approval on that at the end of this month. Next slide, please. One of the items, though, that did come out of the 7 and 7, maybe just the next slide, please, was the around communal servicing. And communal servicing is, one of the things that came out of the 7 and 7, I guess, when we were looking at was the ability to create, accelerate housing in rural areas where unlocking land would be required for some small municipalities or local hamlets to be able to change the urban mix of housing and the opportunities, the types of housing that could be built. If we look at today in traditional centralized systems, they are very helpful in urban areas, but there's a number of small municipalities that just can't afford to introduce these types of systems. So through the 7 and 7, we learn more about the communal servicing systems, but most importantly, we've taken the lead of what Frontenac has been doing, Frontenac County, with their communal systems and what they've been looking at for the last 7 years as an introduction and the creation of municipal corporations to support the decentralization and the introduction of communal services throughout their county. We see this as an opportunity to be explored further throughout Eastern Ontario, across Ontario, as well as across Canada, as ways to accelerate housing, reduce costs, and change the mix of housing in rural or small municipalities. But just on this slide here, just as a highlight, they are known as shared drinking water and sewer systems. They provide water, or they have the ability to provide water or wastewater, or one or the other. You don't need to do either or. It can be one or the other as well. And typically they are for clusters of residents. So not in where you have traditional areas where you can develop. This would not necessarily be the solution for that. You obviously want to leverage the investment that you've already made in your centralized systems, but this is the alternative for smaller areas that maybe don't have access to those types of systems. They are known as decentralized systems, so if you hear that term, that's what this would be looking at, or clustered system. And they operate on the same principle as a traditional water, wastewater, single centralized system. Some of the advantages, they are closer to the residents in a rural area, and the piping, et cetera, can be a little bit smaller, so it can be a little more cost effective to place. Next slide. And why to look at this? Again, I think I've touched most of this, but just quickly is it does unlock some of those rural lands and those smaller areas where it may be the cost to provide traditional services may be too expensive, or you're looking to efficiently use land effectively with smaller lot sizes or mixed use. It reduces the costs and wait times associated with the traditional infrastructure. We know it takes time to build those types of services and systems out, so this can be implemented within 12 months if it's so required. One thing that's not in here, though, and actually Stefan mentioned this morning, is around the use of water. The same sort of studies need to be done as far as consumption of water that would be done today in a traditional system, or if you're doing drilling into the aquifer. So those types of studies would still be required to ensure there's enough water availability for the units to be able to service the residents that are there. Increases that density and land efficiency, and the big one is, of course, the mixed-use development opportunities. The big, point on this, though, is that what we're proposing or what we've seen in this, and there is a company, Nuterra, in Brockville, which is close to where we are here today. They've been building and deploying this technology for a number of years, so it's not a new technology. If you look at their maps, the eastern seaboard of the United States, they have hundreds of these units out there, and they've been selling these units and installing them around the world, everywhere from Antarctica to the Sahara Desert. So they are proven technology with the ability to service these communities. Next slide, please. So where we've got involved in this, it did come out of the 7 and 7, but the opportunity arose at that point to apply for funding through the CMHC Housing Supply Challenge in February. We were successful in a partnership with 2B Development in securing $1 million of funding to do a study on the Frontenac model and look at the opportunity to expand what they've already done there into other potential rural or county or rural communities across Eastern Ontario. Under the CMHC funding, though, part of the requirement is that we also need to look at it from a regional and a national perspective, which we are taking on. With the funds, we're looking at the following steps. These are the 4 steps that we wrote the business plan on for them, was to provide continued support to the County of Frontenac, which has recently created a municipal corporation or their utility, and has been a pioneer in Eastern Ontario on communal servicing. We want to create a step-by-step guide mirroring the Frontenac model to provide it to other rural municipalities. It's taken them 7 years of hard work and effort to get to the point they're at today. We feel that with taking what they've learned, we can reduce that cycle time drastically and give it as an option for municipalities to consider to implement. We want to develop and create a system standard, which every utility has. And we want to create and lead a skill enhancement training and education program for municipal staff and operators. This one we have changed a little bit because in discussion and learning through this process and talking to municipalities, there's actually a number of models that we need to consider that we're looking at. One is where there's already a utility and you're going to look at adding these types of systems to that, looking at a neighboring utility that may be there. Or in the case of Frontenac, you know, they have created a municipal corporation. They're looking potentially to expand that to other partners that may be around them to be able to help support them. So more to come on number 4 as we look at expanding that the scope of that one a bit. Next slide. So the request for this, the housing supply challenge is actually a 3-phase challenge. So we were successful in the first phase, which was $1 million. We are applying for the second phase, which is an additional $3 million to help expand this opportunity. And the third phase, which will come in 2024-5, is a $5 million opportunity. The request that we have, and we have vetted this through the CAOs, and we appreciate their feedback, is we've modified sort of a template letter that we've drafted. But we are looking for support from municipalities that there's a interest in a potential adoption. And at this point, that's all we're looking for, is just communal is something that could be considered as an adoptable technology to help accelerate the growth of housing in your communities or Eastern Ontario. And that's really what we're looking for, is to just show with CMHC that there is a openness to the adoption of these types of services throughout Eastern Ontario as we apply for that second round of funding. That's it. I think that's the last slide.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saint-Pierre. Any questions from council? In regards to the last presentation in your slide number 2, I believe, this also applies to businesses?
So so under our challenge, the CMHC one is primarily focused on housing, but the technology will service industrial and commercial areas as well. And we are looking at a project in Peterborough County that potentially could be a mix of commercial and residential services.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and you're more than welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting. Mr. Pine, thank you so much. Nice to see you again. Mr. Parisien?
Mr. Ward, members of council, there's going to be a visit of New Terra next week, scheduled for 10 o'clock in Brockville. I know for a fact that Clarence Rockland's CAO has paid a visit already, and I think that Monsieur Leroux and some of your staff members are also going to be attending next week. But if there's interest from any of the members to travel to Brockville next week, you're more than invited to see what's going on with New Terra. So let me know if you're interested.
Thank you, Mr. Parisien. So this will take care of item number 5. Have a nice day. Thank you. Bye-bye. Donc, le prochain item, le point numéro 6, point de consentement. On a sur les items suivants à 6.1, procès verbal de la réunion ordinaire du Conseil en date du 25 avril 2024. On a aussi à 6.2 les comptes du mois. 6.3, correspondance du Conseil qui est 6.3.1. Dossier d'information du Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, infolettre pour le mois d'avril 2024. À 6.3.2, on a aussi avis de terrain surplus par les Comtés unis de Prescott-Russell. À 6.4, demande de délégation municipale au congrès annuel de l'AMO 2024. On a aussi à 6.5, demande du maire Lefebvre en vertu du Fonds régional d'investissement communautaire. Et à 6.6, la filière TP 012-2024, achat d'une fourgonnette pour la corporation. Donc, s'il n'y a aucun de ces items-là que vous voudriez discuter à part, on l'enlève dessus la résolution du consentement, puis on le discute à part. Sinon, on a une résolution qui se lit comme suit. Qu'il soit résolu que les points de consentement soient adoptés tels que présentés. Donc, on parle de 6.1 à 6.6 inclusivement. Proposeur appuyeur, Mr. Zand, seconded by Mme Lajoie. All those in favor? Against? Carried. On va à l'item numéro 8, rapport des départements et des comités. 8.1, l'administration. 8.1.1, candidature pour le poste de président du Conseil pour le reste de l'année 2024. Vous avez tous eu un attachement. La résolution se lit comme suit. Entendu que le président du Conseil pour l'année 2024, le maire Pierre Leroux de la municipalité de Russell, a démissionné de son poste le 19 avril 2024, et entendu que le maire Normand Riopel a été nommé à titre de président suppléant du Conseil jusqu'à ce qu'un processus d'élection soit mené conformément au règlement de procédure 2018-12, une fois que le nouveau maire de la municipalité de Russell aura été élu ou nommé. Et entendu que le nouveau maire de la municipalité de Russell entrera en fonction le 27 mai 2024, et entendu que l'article 22 du règlement de procédure 2018-12 dicte la procédure d'élection pour le poste de président du Conseil, et entendu que l'article 22 du règlement de procédure 2018-12 ne traite pas de délai selon lesquels les candidatures pour le poste de président du Conseil doivent être déposées auprès de la secrétaire lorsque le poste de président du Conseil est déclaré vacant pendant la durée normale du mandat. Et entendu que le Conseil a l'intention de nommer le président du Conseil pour le reste de l'année 2024, lors de la réunion spéciale du Conseil en date du 12 juin 2024, qu'il soit résolu que les candidatures pour le poste de président du Conseil pour le reste de l'année 2024 soient déposées auprès de la secrétaire avant le 4 juin 2024. Proposeur appuyeur, Mme Lajoie, appuyé de M. Laviolette. Questions, discussions? Tous en faveur? Contre? Adopté. « 8.2, services sociaux. 8.2.1, le rapport SS-04-2024, stratégie nationale du logement, allocation 2024 et 2025 sur le ICOLC, IPOL et ACOL. On a 4 rapports, 5 rapports. Qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil approuve l'option 1, comme indiqué dans le rapport SS-04-2024. Proposeur appuyeur, M. Kirby, appuyé de M. Lefebvre. Questions sur les rapports? M. Lefebvre.
Oui, merci, M. Réopel, et bon matin. J'ai eu la chance de lire le rapport à quelques reprises. Je dois admettre que c'est quand même assez compliqué, où on a deux différents piliers de gouvernement qui ont disons, une situation qui n'est pas nécessairement sur la même longueur d'onde. Puis je vois une des premières options, on parle toujours de l'élimination de ce montant là, pour les nouveaux établissements. Alors, je présume que cet item-là est plus sur la table dans aucun sens. Est-ce que c'est bien ça?
Oui, Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Lefebvre, au budget 2024, on avait mis l'achat d'une nouvelle unité, mais là, avec les incertitudes par rapport au financement, on a décidé tout simplement de suspendre ce projet-là parce que c'est un projet d'environ 900 000 qui pourrait finalement être complètement au comté à payer. Là. Donc, on a décidé d'attendre les confirmations avant d'aller de l'avant avec l'achat des nouvelles unités. Mais les programmes ordinaires pour le soutien de nos résidents envers les loyers, envers les rénovations, l'accès à la propriété, ces programmes-là sont maintenus pour aider notre population.
Oui, j'ai pu voir ça, et heureusement que vous allez utiliser les réserves, mais on présume ou on est-tu garanti que ces réserves-là vont être rempli par ce manque-là présentement, parce qu'on parle tout le temps de continuer le soutien, mais quand on lit la correspondance entre le ministère des Affaires municipales et aussi au niveau fédéral, je dois admettre que ça porte à confusion, tout ça. Et est-ce que ces montants-là, ils vont être garantis ou non? Et on va être capable de rembourser la réserve?
Les montants sont pas garantis à l'heure actuelle parce que l'Ontario et le fédéral ne s'entendent pas. On a eu une correspondance du fédéral qui dit qu'eux vont envoyer les argents directement aux municipalités s'il n'y a pas d'entente, mais il n'y a aucun montant d'avancée. On ne connaît pas la proportion qui est avancée par le fédéral versus ce que la province fournit dans ces subventions-là. Donc, pour le moment, on n'a aucune confirmation sur ces subventions-là. Donc, si on obtient l'argent, quand on va l'obtenir, on va renflouer notre fonds réserve à ce moment-là. Advenant que ces fonds-là soient suspendus de façon indéfinitive, bien, à ce moment-là, ça va sortir de notre fonds réserve, ces financements-là.
Oui, je dois admettre, Mme Gratton, que c'est vraiment pas de confusion parce que, comme vous avez mentionné, les fonds vont être dirigés directement du fédéral aux municipalités, qui n'est pas normalement une norme coutume, disons, à cause de leurs responsabilités différentes au niveau constitutionnel. Mais mon inquiétude, c'est est-ce que ces fonds-là vont être dirigés aux municipalités dans une autre façon et vous allez être capable de vous rembourser ou c'est vraiment un nouveau programme qu'ils parlent et ils feront livrer directement aux municipalités? Je dois admettre là, que en lisant cette correspondance-là, ça laisse beaucoup à interprétation.
Oui, malheureusement, on n'a pas plus d'infos que ces lettres-là qu'on a reçues.
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Lefebvre, membre du Conseil, si je peux me permettre, on est conscient de l'argument qui existe en ce moment entre la province de l'Ontario et le gouvernement fédéral du Canada. La province incite le gouvernement fédéral à verser les fonds directement aux municipalités. Ce n'est pas une situation qui est différente de ce qui a été dans le passé. Elle est inhabituelle par le fait qu'il y a une argumentation entre les deux. Puis entre-temps, nous, we're kind of choosing the lesser of the two evils. Si on attend à prendre les fonds avant de verser ces fonds-là vers les subsides, it's going to be complete chaos. On n'est pas la seule municipalité là, dans cette situation-là. Tous les gestionnaires de services municipaux regroupés sont dans la même situation. Ils font sensiblement la même chose. Moi, je suis confiant là, qu'on va avoir une entente parce que la province est consciente là, du fait qu'on doit supporter ou soutenir ces montants-là dans l'immédiat. Donc, c'est une histoire à suivre. But like I said, we're choosing the lesser of the two evils. If we don't get the subsidies out to the people that need it, it's going to be complete chaos. It's going to be worse than just trying to fund it through our reserve. But I understand your concern.
Yeah.
We have the same thing, but in the meantime, what are we supposed to do? I'd rather see our residents get the money than wait and to see them in more hardship than they are.
Yeah. If I might have one more supplemental. Thank you, Mr. Warden. Merci, Mr. Parisien. I must admit, I know that this is also your previous field of expertise, so I understand the dilemmas and aussi the said of Madame Gratton, because I had to read it several times just to try and understand, and it left the question really open-ended. The final comment I have basically is regard to the letter from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs dated March 1st, where you're talking about stopping the 10-year review of local housing or needs. Did I misunderstand this letter basically? Because it says here, the minister is requesting that social managers not complete the review of their local plan, and we're talking about their 10-year housing plan for homelessness. So maybe, I think we're already in the process of reviewing or doing this plan. So I don't know further to this letter here, if this will affect it or should it be stopped, or we just continue the process.
Pardon. Oui, la lettre a été inclue là-dedans. Quand on l'a reçue, on n'avait pas encore les directives, mais on a démarré les démarches là, pour la révision du plan. Là.
Oui, parce que je fais partie présentement de ce comité-là. On
Oui,
a
oui,
eu une rencontre. Alors,
Oui.
en regardant cette lettre-là, là, je me demandais où on était rendu avec ça, parce qu'on a déjà MNP qui
Oui.
travaille avec nous sur ce document-là et on a déjà des rencontres assez prévues pour continuer ça. Merci.
Merci.
Merci, M. Lefebvre. Bonne question, puis intéressant de voir que la province puis le fédéral s'obstinent sur des montants, parce que les municipalités aussi s'obstinent sur des montants. On veut tout le temps avoir notre fair share, comme on dit. Puis j'imagine que la province demande la même chose au fédéral. Donc, peut-être pour ça que les fonds ne sont pas disponibles, mais en espérant que ça va générer sur le côté positif. Merci beaucoup. Autre question, commentaire? All those in favor? Against? Carried. Item number 9, question period for Ed Department. On a à 9.1, Mario Zant, Police Service Board. Mr. Zant.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. As everybody knows, the province of Ontario has given us a very wonderful gift. It's an important gift, but it's a problematic gift in the sense that we, Mayor Lajoie, myself, Mayor Ternarski, well, soon to be Mayor Ternarski, and other representations from Nation have to create a police board from scratch. Now, I understand that Hawkesbury Detachment has had their police board for how long?
The Hawkesbury Police Service Board has been existent for numerous years, basically, and I've been on the board since 2014 as the community representative, now as the mayor for the town of Hawkesbury.
Thank you. So essentially what this is I just wanted to tâter le terrain, comme qu'ils disent en bon français. We're trying to figure out exactly how we're going to manage this in terms of communication, in terms of web presence, in terms of many different aspects. And this is essentially to have a conversation to see if there's potentially any willingness from this council to mandate the administration to come back with a report to see where this could actually land. Could this be something that we could centralize through the United Counties of Prescott-Russell, in Prescott-Russell, in terms of web presence? We're not looking at hiring more staff or having additional financial pressures on the counties. Essentially, our meetings, once set up, I think they said maybe once every 2 months would be the ongoing thing, and it would be just essentially to publish some things on a website. But we're looking for, I guess, a centralized hub in that sense to make it easier for citizens to access information as opposed to having it on 4 different websites, which could differ in time. It could pop up on one website, but if someone's on vacation at another municipality, then that could be delayed for a week or 2 or whatever the case is. So I don't know if there's any other comments, mais vraiment, c'était juste pour savoir s'il y avait peut-être un appétit pour centraliser ceci sur un site Internet and other items, I guess, that we could talk about. So, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci, M. Zant. Administration, M. Parisien, ça serait-tu quelque chose que les comtés unis pourraient peut-être s'impliquer ou nous faire un rapport de dire de comment est-ce qu'on va s'y prendre? Parce que c'est nouveau pour moi aussi. Là, je veux dire, on avait un CPAC, puis là, on a changé de CPAC, on est rendu sur le Police Board. Je sais que M. Lefebvre a hâte de donner sa réponse, mais on va demander à M. Parisien, ouais, c'est un petit input, après ça, on va aller à M. Lefebvre.
Monsieur le Président, membre du Conseil, nous, ce qu'on va faire, c'est ce que le Conseil nous mandate de faire. Si vous voulez qu'on regarde à ça, on va le faire. On n'a pas la juridiction sur les services de police. Ça, c'est de municipalités locales en ce moment. Donc, on n'a jamais été impliqué dans ces dossiers-là au préalable. Donc, ça va nous demander, bien entendu, de faire de la recherche, d'évaluer s'il y a des responsabilités qui nous incombent, qui vont aller au-delà de ce qu'on a présentement. Je peux vous dire qu'au niveau de l'administration, que ce soit par Mme Cadieux ou M. Bertillon, on est pas mal stretché au niveau de ce qu'on fait comme responsabilité. Est-ce possible qu'on soit obligé d'embaucher une nouvelle ressource? On ne le sait pas. Si vous voulez qu'on regarde ça, on va le regarder. Quand les informations vont sortir en temps et lieu, c'est vraisemblablement Mme Cadieux qui va avoir la responsabilité de faire les recherches à ce niveau-là. Si elle veut répondre, mais de la discussion qu'on a eue ensemble, les 3, on est prêt à faire ce que le Conseil va nous mandater de faire.
Merci, M. Parisien. M. Lefebvre.
Merci, M. Président. M. Léopel. En ce qui concerne le nouveau détachement, la nouvelle commission de détachement de Hawkesbury, à nous, la ville de Hawkesbury qui avait une commission, il y a vraiment une transition très facile pour nous parce qu'on a déjà beaucoup de choses en place pour rencontrer les normes. Les nouvelles commissions, ils vont être obligés d'établir des politiques. Comme un conseil municipal, quand ça vient à la question du site, pour nous, c'est plus pratique que la municipalité haute, qu'on appelle en anglais le lead municipality, on va être capable de gérer le tout parce que c'est pas seulement gérer le site, et aussi les municipalités vont être obligées de faire application à travers le site de la province et c'est plus pratique qu'une municipalité gère tout au lieu de commencer à diviser toutes les fonctions qu'on doit faire, soit municipales ou au comté. Le ministère du solliciteur général, quand même, ils ont un consultant, M. Graham White, qui est là pour nous aider. Légalement, les nouvelles commissions sont obligées d'avoir 4 réunions par année. Bien entendu, la première année, ça va prendre peut-être quelques réunions pour établir le budget, remettre le budget aux municipalités pour adoption, établir toutes les politiques, que ce soit des politiques de présence, remboursement, des procédures, comme chaque municipalité y ont. Alors, disons que pour commencer, pour les nouvelles commissions, oui, c'est peut-être un engagement, mais le ministère sont là pour aider, pour que ça vienne pour notre site Internet. J'ai déjà communiqué avec notre coordinatrice de communication on va tout simplement faire une onglette avec tous les documents, les agendas, les minutes en anglais et français. Et il va y avoir un lien pour les municipalités que les gens pourraient cliquer et rédiger essentiellement l'information. Alors, pour nous, c'est déjà en place. Je ne vois pas le besoin. Et je remercie les comptes unis pour l'offre de service, mais je pense que nous autres, la commission, on va être capable de gérer à travers notre municipalité pour éviter que trop de mains est impliqué et que tout se fait par la municipalité autre comme telle. Mais je suis toujours disponible et j'ai fait de l'offre à M. Zant que si jamais ils veulent avoir une discussion avec moi, je suis toujours disponible à venir en service. Merci.
Merci, M. Lefebvre. You have a question? Go ahead, Mme Lajoie.
Merci, Monsieur Riopel. Just to go off on that, I think what we're trying to aim for is just trying to kind of centralize the information because we have 2 boards in one county. So it's just to help the public also understand where the lines are and how it works. So I think it's just more information that we could provide the constituents if we could post this information through the county's website. So it's just a matter of partnering, I guess. I find it's more transparent as well for the public to understand. So it's not that we're asking for the staff to do the work for us. We're going to do that as the board, as the committee. We just need a place to show the work that we're doing, provide the minutes to the public.
So if I understand correctly, we could share our information with the counties and they could just publish it on our website. That would be something. But before we get there, I understand, Mr. Lefebvre, we're up to par. They know where we're going. We'll learn. Wouldn't you want to go and do the process in regards to start your business and see how it goes and see how things are published on your websites at each municipalities? And if you see the need that we need to bring to the counties, I think that could be done in the future. But for now, to imply them into this new venture, I think it's a bit soon. And if you need any extra, there's 2 contacts person. Mr. Lefebvre said 1, but I know there's 2. There's Mr. Graham White, and there's Robert Lefebvre also, because he's very knowledgeable and he knows where the board stands, so he's got all the information. If it's okay with him, because I know Mr. Lefebvre would be a good resource also. Any other questions, comments? Monsieur Brière?
Yeah, the nation, actually, we have to sit on both boards, so we're just a little worried about what does that look like when it comes to representation. I know as it stands now, as far as the East, we have 1 representative, and do we have equal votes? How does that work? That's the worry of essential when it comes to being represented. We want to make sure that we have the right representation and the budgeting, because again, how is that going to be broken down? Because we don't know what that looks like, being that we have to be on both. That may represent a lot of money for us, so we just want to make sure that we're getting, I guess you want to call it bang for our buck. Actually, we're worried about a variety of things because this is the first time we've gone through the process.
Bien entendu, M. Brière. M. Lefebvre?
Yes, one final comment to my colleague, Mr. Brière. Basically, I when In 2001, the Ministry of Solicitor General decided to amalgamate boards, basically, and that the boards be representative of their territory. And Hawkesbury covers the former township of Caledonia, and the rest is covered by the Russell Detachment. So the province decided to limit the number of commissions, basically, to be more manageable at their level. And it was determined in 2001, and your CAO, I guess, at the time, sat with the other CAOs to establish the composition of the board. And the composition of the board was established for the Hawkesbury Detachment, like Russell, and I presume you decided to be able to have access to both boards at the time. Regulations dictate a lot of information as how we operate. For instance, budgets, approvals, and the process, because a lot of these boards will have to return to each municipal council for approval. And most of the time, in certain areas, there has to be unanimous approval. Okay, so that, in a way, also protects basically the interest of the nation municipality or the area that is covered. So legally, we're required to have 4 meetings per year. That is a statutory requirement, and there's a lot of regulations that go with that. But a lot of items basically have to return to each municipal council for unanimous approval, for instance, budgeting and so forth. The rest of the items is basically in terms of addressing your concerns in your own municipalities at the board level. If that helps to answer your question, Mr. Briard.
Absolutely, that reassures us.
And you're
a
more
lot
than welcome
what's
to.
going on, honestly. Because like I said, we were just worried about being that we may not be represented as equal partner east, then
Correct.
maybe we'd have budgetary constraints for it, knowing that it comes back to council. That's all we can have.
Exactly, and there will be greater transparency because the requirements of the regulations now require this information to be on the website, to be accessible, and reporting back to council, which wasn't happening before. And your representative, Mr. Stewart, who sits on council, will be present. And we plan on rotating and having the meetings in each area municipality just for more accessibility.
Merci, M. Lefebvre, pour la clarification. M. Zant.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Juste pour fermer la boucle, this was just for conversation, essentially to see where people are at. I appreciate everyone's comments, and I'll take it back to the board for further discussions over there. At the end of the day, we'll make it work. It's working everywhere else. To Monsieur Parisien's comment about counties, I believe Lanark County might be involved somehow. So if it gets to that point of having a look into anything, I think Lanark might be involved. But I have no issues on just taking it back, tabling this for now, and having further conversations if needed. Merci.
Merci, M. Zant. M. Parisien?
Yeah, Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Zant, je suis pas sûr pour l'ANARC, mais je sais qu'SDNG a un contrat à base de comté. On a évalué cette opportunité-là il y a plusieurs années, mais ces deux municipalités-là, potentiellement, je sais que pour SDNG, sont dans une clause grand-père au niveau de contrat avec un upper tier. Là. Ça n'a pas été possible de notre côté. On va évaluer ça avec eux. Just so you know, sir, and I just don't want to forget this, we had a home committee this morning to advise the members that sit on it about the progress of our new long-term care facility and what are the requirements. I just want to remind members of council, and there's no unwillingness on our part to take on additional duties if that's the case, but right now we may seem like our heads above water, and we are, but this is a huge undertaking. It's all hands on deck for every single department to make that opening as seamless as possible. So we're not stating that enough, but staff are, whether it's finance, whether it's HR, whether it's admin, buildings, or paramedics, everyone right now is providing some type of support for this new long-term care with the planned move in the fall. It's going to be quite an undertaking. We're trying to take every step possible to make this successful. And I just want to have council recognize that maybe if we come up short with certain things in the meantime, it's because we've got a big priority to handle. And that's, for us, the main one is to finish this residence and to get going with the move and to finalize our mortgage And as the question was asked this morning, what's going to happen of the old building? We're looking at options right now. We're not ready to come to council with this. We know we also have an option of selling the property. And anyways, I'm just using this, I'm just opening up this parentheses to let you know that this is a huge undertaking for us. And if we say that we can't for now, it's in a moment in time where we say we can't do this, but we don't normally say no. We're not looking for extra work is what I'm saying for now.
You're off the hook for now. That's cool pour l'instant. Very good. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Zant. Thank you, Council, on this discussion. Item number 10, bylaw number 2024-21 to bylaw number 2024-23. There are 3 bylaws in the attachment. Be it resolved that the following bylaws be adopted by Council of the United Counties of Prescott-Russell after 3 readings. 2024-21 to establish the per kilometer allowance rates and the meal and incidentals per diem rates for the members of council and employees for the Corporation of the United Counties of Prescott and Russell. Bylaw number 2024-22 to authorize acquisition of part of Lot 23, Concession 14, being parts of Lot 1, 2, 5, and 6 on Plan 46R-8259 from the Nation Municipality in the County of Prescott. Bylaw number 2024-23 to provide for the remuneration of the members of council of the Corporation of the United Counties of Prescott and Russell. I'll need a mover and a seconder to bring the bylaws forward. Mr. Laviolette, seconded by Madame Lajoie. Read the first time, all those in favor. Read the second time, all those in favor. Read the third time, all those in favor. Carried. Ça va à l'item numéro 12, confirmatory of bylaw number 2024-25. Be it resolved that council adopts bylaw number 2024-25 to confirm the proceedings and recommendations made in the reports, resolutions, and bylaw at the regular council meeting of May 22nd, 2024, after 3 readings. Again, I'll need a mover and a seconder to bring forward the bylaw. Mr. Lefebvre, seconded by Mr. Zant. Read the first time, all those in favor. Read the second time, all those in favor. Read the third time, all those in favor. Carried. Item number 13, announcement. On a des annoncements à faire, des annonces, pas d'annonces. I have 2. Madame Lajoie, yesterday was your birthday. Happy birthday. And tomorrow is Mr. Kirby's birthday, so happy birthday to you too. We're good? Is somebody else's birthday coming up, which I don't know, but happy birthday. 14, ajournement. On n'a pas besoin de proposer à la plusieurs, donc ce meeting is adjourned. Merci beaucoup. Have a nice day. Merci les gens à la salle, les gens à la maison. On se revoit au mois prochain, le 12 juin. Merci.